Welcome to part 13 of my building the Flying Dutchman. I've made quite a bit of progress, more than I thought I would. I want to mention two things. Number one, I have reached 10,000 subscribers, which just amazes me. I wanted to take a moment to thank everyone that has subscribed. Secondly, I will be leaving on a vacation for a couple of weeks. I know I mentioned that earlier, but now for sure I am. I will leave on the 3rd of next month and be back in 2.5, 3 weeks. So I'll continue on the ship then. I have made some interesting progress. Let me give you a flyover so I can show you what it looks like in general, and then I'll take a few minutes going into the specifics of how the construction was going and the steps that I took. On these doors at the bow of the ship, it shows that you leave the head on the nail and tap it in, but that head is too large, covers up the details of the hinge. So what I do is I drill it most of the way through, then cut the head off. Then I will put on see, the nails are sticking through just a little bit. I'll tap the nail so that I know it's through the wood all the way. Now that it's through, I cut off the head, but you don't want the hinge slipping off, so I put it on something metal, like this little anvil, tap, and it'll bludgeon the top of that, and then it won't slip off. Once you get that done, you can tap it all the way down. And that gives me more of the look I want. I'm not normally the world's best at making these dead-eye supports for the rigging, but I'm doing pretty well today. I'm just going to point out some tools that I have that actually do help. They show that you wrap this around the dead-eye and then twist it. But I've found if you get one of these little tools, and it is specifically for bending brass and different wires, it's probably for jewelry making. I'm sorry, I don't know what it's called. Might say here, the bead smith. I can wrap this around and actually make it a little bit smaller than what the dead-eye is, and then it's like spring-loaded. What I'm doing is pushing these so it opens it back up just a little bit. The dead-eye slides in there, and then this tool comes in handy because it's got nylon. It's like pliers with a nylon sleeve, and it is to straighten brass. I'll show you that in just a minute. Use that to hold it, and then whatever pliers of your choice. Give that a good twist. And now I need to straighten it out a little bit. This is the tag you cut off. Then if you have any bends in your brass wire, let me go ahead and make one, okay? So even if you straighten that out a little bit, there's a little hump there. You take these nylon sleeved pliers and put some pressure on it and pull it. Change directions a few times, and it will straighten out your brass. Here they are finished. One thing I'll point out, see how it looks like a face? You got two eyes and then the nose or mouth pointing down where the stem is. That's how you want all of them to be. And a lot of them are well done. There are just a couple, like this one here. The twist goes down real far. I may have to untwist that a little and snip off that little tail. We'll see when I get them on the ship. If you recall, this unit was designed to pull out and you had a battery pack inside, but I'm doing mine different, so this is permanently installed. I ran into a problem because I cannot get these dead eyes curled. What they do is they have you take the brass rod or wire and put a curl in it and nail it to the side of the ship. Well, I can't get in there to do that. So what I've done is I've drilled a hole. You might be able to see the light colored wood there. Put an elbow in the wire and then pushed it in, and that's going to hold the dead eye. So that's just something to think about, but actually I like it better pushed in. I'm not sure I like the putting a circle in the wire and then nailing it to the ship. So I may do this on all of them. I've seen that done before. We'll see when I get done. I'll show it to you. That worked well. I'll put a little stain where the white holes are later on, but that did work out pretty well. I got all these dead eyes put in. I did knock out a couple of braces here, but I can put those back in. This is the open side, so they have to be shorter. I drill a hole in, I make an L shape in the brace, and then just tuck it in the hole, a little dab of CA glue on it. And these, they're pretty straight, but I'll straighten them out a little bit more once I start the rigging work. This is the closed side. Have those all in place. Happy with that. I have put a coat of stain on this black walnut so it matches the rest of the ship. I put this little nose on, and I will have to sand off the edge of it to get it flush, but that gives some strength here. And I think that one statue is supported by this. I'm beginning to fine-tune some things, and I mentioned before maybe it's a good idea to start a ledger. So if you're into that, here's another point. I wish I would have taken the edges off of these railings here, because I don't think a ship would actually have them that square. So I've gone through and I've filed and sanded all those edges off so that it has a little bit of a rounded appearance. I don't know if it shows up that well on camera. You can see some of the additional things I've added. These are supports that will hold the anchors on the sides of the ship. And you can see the chain going up to the front statue. You can see this block of wood that I added in there, and that's what he's supported to. I used an epoxy glue on the back. That's where you mix the two, and then it gets pretty solid. I'm considering drilling a small hole right under his rib cage, right up in there at an angle, and put a peg into that block of wood so that it would definitely hold him in place. I'm afraid that if he gets bumped, he's gonna fall off at some point in the future. In this next phase, I'm going to be adding some more of these bone and skeletal supports. This will have a railing that goes around the top of it. I came up with another idea, and what I did, let me take these off so you can see. I made a little divot on each side so that that little bone support can rest inside that, and I hope it'll make it a little stronger. So we'll see how it works out in the long run. I did get them all installed, and just for effects, I put a couple of the belaying pins in to give you an idea what it will look like. I'm not going to finish that quite yet. Another lesson learned on these belaying pins. See, these are too close together. I will not be able to get rope around those. Make this little tab a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit longer. Start out, put one in the center and then two on the outside edge. Here is an example of the one I remade. So they'll all be like that. While I'm mentioning these, I will also say that the instructions have you use a drill bit that's 1.5 millimeter, and that's a little bit too tight. I split one of these. If you use a 1.6, they will fit in snug, but not so snug that you have to pound them in with a hammer, and you won't split the wood. As Davy Jones said, life is cruel. Why should the afterlife be any different? Well, in my life, I know that it can be, and I hope it is in yours too. But that's part 13 of my Building the Flying Dutchman. This is Boiler Dan 1, and as always, thanks for watching.